Hey, I want to speak for a moment in regards to the Asian uh, people who have been assaulted. Um, it's been going on since the beginning of the pandemic. Still going on. It's pretty bad. And one thing I always point to about America is that a lot of racism isn't about skin color. A lot of racism in America is based upon scarcity or a sense of scarcity. Uh, Fighting over jobs, stuff like that. That's why you had this big push about white supremacy, that white people are losing their country, we're fighting for our country, that um, when Trump ran in 16, he talked about the Mexican caravans and stuff like that. Stuff you hear, the transgenderism. This is all about that sense of we're losing our society. Now, in those cases I'm talking about, that's more of a fabric of the society. With the Asians, they're probably one of the biggest threats to white dominionism. Obviously, white plus the majority in America. That ain't changing no time soon. In many places, that's not going to change for a very long time. The demographic shifts. Um, One thing before the pandemic, I spoke about, and I stand by this, is that if you remember, there were a lot of black people getting the police call on them for nothing. The black woman that was, it started with Barbecue Becky out there in Oakland and some other places as well where the police were called on black folks for really nothing, nothing at all. There was a video in Memphis. A guy, I think he was a realtor, went into the house. This old lady called the police, and he identified himself, did it all the right way, and they told him that he could stay there, he could do his job. And the white lady, the old lady that called, was like, "I'm gonna call the sheriff's department." Even after she knew he wasn't a criminal, even after she knew he wasn't doing anything wrong, it didn't matter. I don't want your black behind in my community. Doesn't matter if you're selling drugs or if you're committing crimes. They could have, those police could have searched his car from top to bottom with canine dogs, searched him, strip searched him. It didn't matter. It wasn't about crimes. It's about, once again, that scarcity of they're taking over. They're taking our communities. Our kids like their music. Our kids like their music, their culture, all that kind of stuff. Um, I said music twice. Um, One thing I said even back then, with all the police, the black men at the Starbucks, and there was a woman that was at a college, I think, taking a nap in the lounge, and they called the cops on her. Um, is that I knew this is only the beginning, and that it would be Mexicans next, it would be Asians next, and I said to a bunch of people I knew that that was gonna happen because America isn't just built upon anti-black racism; it's a white supremacist nation. When people on Fox News talk about gay people and transgenders taking over the Judaism and Christianity, and what is Newt Gingrich talking about? Gay supremacy or something. Do you know why that is? You know why they say that? Because they've built their politics upon white supremacy. And when you've built your politics and your lifestyle upon supremacy and privilege, even if you only lose 1% or less than 1% of something, you're still losing something. You understand? It could be something, it could be a parking space, it could be something very small. It doesn't matter because you're used to that. You've been living upon that privilege. Um, the Asian people getting beat up, to me, uh, fulfills that prophecy, I guess, that I made over a year ago. That, um, yeah, this is the fall of America. This is what the fall of America looks like. Is if you're not white and you're a threat to our system, we're gonna fuck you up. And we're gonna be very proud and open about fucking you up. It bothers me that I'm right about so much. It bothers me that I've been right. I talked about how um, I believe the next move of the right with Christianity is I believe the Christians are going to say, okay, climate change is real. Climate change is a real threat. And that that's a problem. But climate change is a part of the end times. I said that. And then we had a minister come out and say, well, that God didn't design Earth as a permanent planet. Yeah, I knew that was coming. Because that's what the right wing is. So much of the right wing now, that it isn't about, actually like sitting down and agreeing or disagreeing with our arguments. It's about buying time. So much of what the right wing does now is what we would call half court measures, or the Germans called it rear guard action, which is you're getting pushed back, but every so often you get some good shots in. You get a glancing blow to buy you some time. That's what the right wing is. That's what they've been the last 10, 20 years. Just rear guard action. I think the Asians represent a big threat to white supremacy. But you know what gets me also is that the people that are the biggest threat to white supremacy support it. You're threatened by those shifts, demographic shifts, but the people you're threatened by aren't even against you. They're not like me. Those Asian people aren't like me. Those Asian people aren't sitting up here like, man, they're not doing that shit. They're like too busy on their businesses. Those Asian people are too busy on like their families. They're too busy like moving money around in their communities to even think about white people, other than some white guy they know at church or something. But you're threatened by it. You're threatened by that. It's just like after 9/11. I mean, it's what I'm saying is two pronged. On one hand, I'm talking about the eventual demographic shift to white people becoming a minority, which is positive. That's a total positive reaction, total positive event to take place. But I'm also talking about how whenever there's a crisis in America, Americans will always look for scapegoats. Always. That it can't be capitalism or it can't be a error in our system. It's somebody. So if you look at after Reconstruction, you had the rise of the Ku Klux Klan and the White Citizens Councils. If you look at Asians, you had the camps Roosevelt put them in during World War II. If you look at 9/11, all the sheiks got their ass whooped and got killed up in New York City. Sheiks and Muslims are not the same thing. Didn't matter. It was racial resentment. You look at all the Mexicans, the Mexican cartel talk, the caravan talk, the rapist talk with Trump, because they're becoming a threat in certain areas. If you look at black people and the Black Wall Street and all those type of things, they're a threat. They're becoming powerful. Was it Rosewood and areas like that? Black people becoming a threat. They're becoming economically powerful. We have to nip it in the bud. This is what white supremacy has always been about. And I knew this long before those black men were arrested in the Starbucks. In some ways it touches me because I'm from North Carolina. I'm from Charlotte. It was kind of crazy watching that. I'm going to end on this. Watching that video. It was kind of crazy. But moving up here with these people and just seeing how fake they are, how two-faced they are, going behind your back and things like that, I can see how that stuff happens. Where someone tells you to leave, they already called the police. It's. I was reading on Quora about that. Guys talking about that event, and there was a white guy in there talking about how he's tired of these blacks and he's tired of the way they act all thuggish and stuff. And people were explaining to him about how white people, explaining how they've had like meetings at Starbucks. They've never had anybody threaten to call the police ever. It's never happened. And how, like I just said, this lady, the manager, had already called the cops on them before they even were given a chance to leave. The police were already on the way. Call was already put in, and the guy couldn't believe it. The guy was like, "I don't believe that happened." Yes, that's how fake people are, because they want to get you riled up. They want to get you arrested. What they want to do is act fake and do stuff to piss you off. And then when the police get there, you act up in front of the police. That's what they want. That's what they want. They're not gonna run up on you and use a racial slur. They're not gonna put their hands on you. They're gonna talk stupid and they're gonna act stupid and get you caught up. I recognize that this system's gotta fall. This ideology they have has gotta fall. That it is so vicious and it is so rotten the way they think and the way they live. And I recognize that racial resentment is a key factor of white supremacy. It always has been. It always will be. COVID just exposed for us what America truly is. And I remember like seeing commercials. We talk about being thankful that Americans took the pandemic seriously. Americans didn't take the pandemic seriously. I mean, that's a bunch of bullshit. They didn't do that in the beginning. Don't do it now. You know, people just. America's a profoundly anti-scientific, anti-intellectual country. I'm not a scientist nor I'm an intellectual, but I don't hate those people. And for a lot of Americans, they do. A whole lot of that egghead liberal type propaganda going on. That's very real. And it just means that when we do get a real pandemic, a real disease X, America's going to handle it even more poorly. Because now there's a social more around being stupid. And, you know, I can get sick with this pandemic and that makes me stronger. And we should just let everybody die of it so we can have it just. I guess it's good that conservatives, like, they're so fucking brain dead that they say things like that and not recognize like that scares people. Like, if they had let this thing run wild, over 5 million people would have died of COVID, from what I understand. And it's good that for rednecks, they're so indoctrinated and they're so caught up in an echo chamber that they don't understand, like, you can't tell people that. People are never going to follow that. You have people that agree with you on certain things, but you can't be. And what Trump did was move them further to the right, alienating them from normal society. That's kind of what COVID did. It's kind of what the COVID era did, is that we all know that this is what the right is, that they're going to just scream about socialism and communism every time the power goes out. Every time there's a major disaster, they're going to just tell you to push up by your bootstraps when you have no boots, no straps. You know, I don't think that wasn't what George Bush and the era of the compassionate conservative was about. That's not what that was. And it's good, it's refreshing to me to see them just blatantly come out and say these things. Openly, blatantly come out and call people transvestites in 2021. Openly come out and talk about how the gay people are trying to take over. What's the word again? From the Christians and the Jews. It's good because there's a lot of Republicans that happen to be gay. Yeah, there happen to be a lot of there's Muslims and stuff. That, guess what, happen to be conservative, politically conservative. I've said it before that there's a lot of conservatism in the black community in the South. The idea, I'm talking about this I'm talking about the not liking the Mexicans, being religious, being small-minded when it comes to science and all that. Those are key parts of the black community. Very key parts. I mean, if you really spend some time in the black community, they're largely Republican. They are. Oh yeah. If you take out the having sex before marriage stuff, which is young people, and you took out the drugs, it's a Republican audience in every way. In every way. A lot of them don't believe in climate change or don't care about climate change. Yeah, there's a lot of people down there like that, big time, big time. And when you do this radical political stuff, you lose those people. You know, it isn't just racism; it's just the fact that uh, we will always need those public health agencies to survive. If you're rich, you don't. The average person does. The average person needs stuff like that, and the fact that the right wing is so clearly anti-intellectual scares people. It does. It scares folks, you know. Then when they say this stuff's not real, and then people's family members start dying, and then people realize like, yo, this stuff is real, dude. I know a friend of mine I work with whose brother died of COVID. My aunt caught COVID. All this crack of bullshit about bullshit when all that, like I said, wear the fucking mask. All this crack of bullshit they talking about, man. These people are pushing an ideology of white supremacy, and in that ideology, they need an America that's anti-intellectual. See, if you look back at history, anytime science is like showing you something was bad, it hurt rednecks. Whether it was DDT, whether it was asbestos, whether it was cigarette smoking, whether it was any of those things, it's always taking something from them, and they know it. Science is never going to be beneficial because their lifestyle is one that's destructive, heavily destructive. So they know that. That's what I learned in the South. They know that. And those people, there's a rage with them. There's a rage because they want to go back to that era. They want to go back to the asbestos. They want to go back to the dirty, smoky factories. They want to go back to a world without catalytic converters. They want to go back to leaded gasoline. They do. They want to go back to that world. The important thing to realize from Trump is that these crackers don't live in the same world we live in. They don't now. They never did. And the idea that the Democrats or whoever else could work with them, no. That was never going to happen. That was never going to happen. These are people that think black people aren't even human. These are, no. Because no. Thanks for listening.